in our communities need to take control of our energy future. If there's an AABE chapter in your community, that makes it easy. You can reach out to them. But even if there's not, we are the ones who need to understand the energy issues. We're the ones who need to work with our neighbors to make sure that our homes are more energy efficient. We're the ones who need to be talking to the utilities or talking to our elected officials to make sure that energy policy doesn't harm our communities and that it benefits us. We're the ones who need to be educating our children so that we can take advantage of these energy jobs that are going to be coming to us.
Welcome to AABE TV. I'm Richard Campbell. With me today is Carolyn Green, the chairperson of AABE, and Frank Stewart, the president and chief operating officer of AABE. In her role as AABE chairperson, she is responsible for leading the organization and ensuring that black consumers' concerns remain at the forefront of the energy industry. Mr. Frank Stewart serves as the president and chief operating officer of the American Association of Blacks in Energy. He is a former official and deputy assistant secretary of the U.S. Department of Energy. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you for having us, Richard.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. Frank, the first question is for you. How would you describe AABE's membership and mission, and what are AABE's goals?
AABE is about 1,500 of the most knowledgeable, most informative, most committed majority and minority members of the energy industry you'll find in this country. They represent 36 chapters across the United States, from Barstow to New Britain, and from Anchorage to Atlanta. And we have we have 6 student chapters at some of the most prestigious universities in the country, including North Carolina A&T and Georgia Tech. The mission of the organization in its 32 years has been around 4 principal areas. First of all, it's served as one of the principal opportunities for African Americans and other minorities to input into national energy policy. And secondly, it's been an opportunity to provide opportunities for professional development for minority members in the energy industry. And it's taken the time to develop information that is both timely and understandable to share with the minority communities around the country. And it has a very strong and consistent support of students, because they're the next generation of those who will lead this industry.
So basically, AABE membership goes across the energy industry. As Carolyn represents the oil companies, we have folks from the energy industry, the electric utilities, natural gas utilities.
Both and across all the utilities and all the elements of the utilities, from the servicing to the suppliers. So it's quite a wide variety. In fact, if you look at the membership, you'll find virtually every aspect of the energy industry represented among our members.
So it's not just the oil refiners, it's the exploration and production, it's the natural gas pipelines, it's the gathering fields, it's attorneys who serve the energy industry, regulatory people, environmentalists. You name it, we've got them.
So basically we have people that are at all levels of these organizations. How does AABE arrive at its positions on public policy issues?
Well, we have a very, very active committee structure, and most of the issues that we deal with are vetted within the committee and then are shared both with our chapters and with our communities. And then their opinions and concerns are kind of reflected back in what we finally take as not positions, because that would imply we're taking a particular stance on a piece of legislation or something of that sort, but we really kind of focus on developing principles around which we operate.
So it's very important to mention AABE is not an advocacy or a lobbying organization.
We're an educational organization. We identify the issues, we provide our members and our communities with the information on those issues so that they can make up their own minds. And we're also a very member-driven organization, so there's no someone out there who's unconnected to us, telling us what to do or what to think. Our members and our communities are the people who identify those issues, who discuss the issues with all of their aspects, and then from that, the board and our Legislative Issues Committee fashion those principles.
Okay, now you've mentioned issues that are affecting energy today, and we hear about climate change almost every day. How will, in your opinion, global warming, Carolyn, affect minority families and minority communities?
Climate change is going to affect the minority community in a couple of ways. One is especially those communities who live near the coasts, and most of our U.S. population does. They're going to be even more subject to floods, terrible storms, and changes in weather, whether it's drought or deluges. The second thing is that because we're looking for warmer temperatures, they're probably going to have even more air pollution than they did before, with less ability to affect how they get away from it or how you clean up that air.
And you're right. From what I've heard, we've been talking about an increase in temperature, which will lead to poorer conditions or quality of air, and in urban areas especially, we've heard a lot about asthma and other weather-related problems.
And it's not only that. People don't realize that when you have higher temperature, you have more mosquitoes that may bring fevers and other illnesses. You may have more rats, more other pests that are bringing us diseases that we may not be accustomed to fighting.
Oh, so you're talking about the shifting of the freeze zone, essentially, and you're talking about the possibility of tropical creatures and diseases gradually shifting into temperate zones.
And not just tropical diseases shifting to temperate zones, but longer growing periods. One of the interesting things is that poison ivy in a climate change environment grows longer, and it's even more potent. So it's the things around us that may be affecting us even more than they do today.
So saying, what is AABE's position on climate change, or has AABE established a position, or is it a set of principles? If you could elaborate on that.
The main principle is that climate change is not only an environmental issue, it's an energy and economic issue. It's going to speak to the way we generate energy and the way we use it. We can't solve climate change problems without addressing fundamentally the way we generate energy and the way we use energy. What AABE is saying is that we need to be a part of the discussions of climate change. We need to be part of the solutions of climate change so that our communities don't pay disproportionately for a societal good.
So Frank, in essence, what we're looking at is how climate change affects minority communities. Is there anything you wanted to add to what Carolyn said?
I think one has to appreciate that climate change is an issue that the entire world is going to address, and all goods and services and actions will be impacted by that. One of the things we need to be conscious and careful about is what policies or programs we as a nation undertake to meet those objectives, to be sure that the consequences of those and the operation of those are indeed equitable and fair to all. And that's where it becomes almost a very immediate thing for us to get involved with, because those policies, those programs are being set literally as we sit here and talk about it. And they will have an impact. It's important to be involved in and have your voice and concerns raised when those issues, those approaches are being formulated, so that you don't wind up having to clean up a lot of issues on the backside that should have been addressed in the first part.
An example, the push for more ethanol, which is a way of reducing our dependence on foreign oil. It has been put forward as a way of dealing with climate change, except that it comes from corn, and people eat corn. Corn is used in most of the products that we eat. If we're burning corn in our cars, what are we doing to replace that food that we're not getting? Are we taking more land out of its natural state, or are people going hungry? Are we paying more for food so that we can have ethanol to put in our cars?
So what you're asking for is a more balanced approach to looking at
a more carefully thought out and considered approach. For instance, there's a lot of talk now about disposing of all incandescent bulbs and going to complex fluorescence. Well, that's fine from one point of view, but it has an economic impact as well. You're asking a family that is just barely getting by to trade a 50-cent light bulb for a $3 light bulb. Now, that does have important consequences for the people that we're most concerned about. They are currently paying between 30 and 40% of their after-tax income for energy services. Now, for someone who's paying in the neighborhood of 5 or 6% for middle and upper income, to have their cost of energy raised may be uncomfortable, but it won't be essentially a deal breaker. But if you're paying 40% of your after-tax income for energy, and that increases by even 10%, then that really does start to have an impact upon your lifestyle and upon whether you can provide adequate basic services for yourself and your family.
I think the bottom line of all of this is that energy and climate change are important issues for the African American community. There are some things we can do about it. The solutions to climate change are energy efficiency, it's renewable energy, it's being smarter about the way we use our energy in our homes. And that's where an organization like AABE can really help our community. We have the experts to help people decide, do I need to weatherize my home? And if I do, where can I get the help to do that? Is there somebody who can help me do that? Is there someone who can help me pay for those energy efficient windows, or doing the weather stripping, or putting in the thermostats that help me decide when to change the temperature in my home? That's what AABE can help us do on a family basis.
On a local basis, right.
But AABE also is there to help us say to our local utilities and our local energy policymakers, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Utility, you need to take my concerns into account. Don't just assume that someone downtown has the answers for me. Talk to me.
And I think that's very important to mention. AABE is not just a national organization, it's a local organization with chapters all over the country, as you mentioned, Frank. So getting involved on the local level is something that you encourage folks really to do.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that we need to be continually aware of is that all of this change also brings the potential for opportunities.
Absolutely.
There will be a number of efforts made on the part of virtually every aspect of the decision makers, and particularly the government, to encourage the private sector to provide these goods and services. And as we look at hundreds and thousands and millions and billions of dollars being spent to have these services provided, it will be very important to have minority entrepreneurs be actively engaged and available in this as well.
It's interesting that one of the best networks for doing home energy efficiency audits are local community organizations and local churches. And as we're shaping energy policy and all of our stimulus packages, they need to make sure that they provide monies to those communities, to those churches, to those community action organizations to do what they already do very, very well.
Now, we've got the president of this nation doing all he can to make this happen. They've got the entire federal bureaucracy trying to make it happen. If we aren't, as a community, willing to understand and participate in that and be ourselves ready to have it happen, then we are disappointing them, we are doing a disservice to ourselves, we're doing a disservice to our community, and doing a disservice to our families.
AABE's mission is also largely to educate and inform. Can you tell us more about AABE's scholarship programs for college students, for high school students?
Oh, happy to. We have a very healthy and very vigorous scholarship program. We award on the order of 100 to 120 scholarships each year. We provide on the order of maybe just under $250,000 in scholarships each year, ranging from as little as $500 to as much as $5,000 each year. And we also have a very active program in support of those students as well. Many of our chapters provide mentors for the students, so they have someone to talk to during the time that they're in school. And I can recall the times where it would have been just great to have had a home-cooked meal while I was in school.
And when those students are on break or during the summer, many of our AABE companies provide them with summer jobs, summer internships, so that when they get out of school, when they graduate from undergraduate school, there's someone who knows what their work habits are, and usually they're immediately offered a job. But we also work at the high school and junior high levels with career fairs, with adopt-a schools, with mentoring of younger children so that they get the kinds of math and science background they need to go into college or to go to work for a utility or a refinery or other good job. For example, in Philadelphia, we've got a special school for students 9th to 12th grade to help them qualify for jobs in chemical companies, in refineries, or in utilities. They graduated 18 years old and they're making $25 an hour to start. That's not a bad job. And then the company will pay for them to go to college if they so choose. So it's not just a matter of paying attention to the kid who's going to go to college. We're concerned about our workforce of tomorrow.
And as I mentioned earlier, we have 6 student chapters, and many of our chapters are working very closely with those student chapters and providing speakers on campus, providing extra programs on campus, working with the faculty to provide both the experiential as well as other kind of services and support to them. So we're very proud of our approach to students because we understand that they're going to be the next leaders in this industry.
Okay, Carolyn, if you were to speak to the viewers of this program, how would you suggest that they get involved with AABE?
First, if you have an AABE chapter in your community, contact them. They are out in the community, they're at community fairs, they are at schools, they're at churches. So just let the AABE people know that you're interested. If you want someone to come to your neighborhood association and talk about weatherization or talk about energy efficiency and conservation, they're there to do that. But if you want to make a change in energy policy within your community, that's another reason to get involved with AABE. And all you have to do is pick up the phone and call someone in your community.
I can't emphasize how important Carolyn's last point is. We need to be involved in these debates, these policy decisions that are being made. Those are the ones that are going to govern our public lives. And again, if we don't step up and speak for ourselves, we can't expect anybody else to speak for us. So every community, every state, every municipality, as well as at the national level, there will be these debates going on. People should not be hesitant to step up and tell what they believe, what they feel, how these issues will impact them. And we would strongly encourage them to do that. And to the extent they need support or information or access to others, there are the AABE chapters, and we can provide the website which they can use to find out where these people are located and the phone numbers.
So I think both of you have made a very strong case for the fact that energy is important to the everyday functioning of our lives, and also it has a great impact on the environment. Is there anything else that you would want to add to what's been said today?
In addition to an impact on our lives, The use of energy is key to economic development. We will not grow as an economy. Our communities won't thrive unless we have access to safe, reliable, and affordable energy. And that's what we're about, making sure that our community has the same chances to thrive that every other community does.
And with the costs that we're seeing or experienced over the summer with high energy costs, it offers an opportunity for folks to get involved and actually do something about high energy costs rather than sit back and complain about them.
Yes, the one way that you can be protective of your own interests is by doing something about your use of energy. Energy efficiency is one way that each individual can take an active personal role in managing the cost of energy.
Okay, well, I thank both of you for being here on AABE TV, and I thank the viewers for listening to the show. And if you have any questions, get involved with AABE, look at the AABE website.
And that's AABE.org.
Absolutely.
Now more than ever before, the AABE focus on enabling dialogue and building bridges is critically needed between policymaker and constituent, between community and business. AABE's national conferences and local chapter meetings create venues where energy technicians, engineers, scientists, and senior management share perspectives, craft solutions, enhance their value as employees, and support the company's bottom line while protecting the more vulnerable members of our society. And most importantly, AABE gives its members the opportunity to champion the needs and aspirations of the communities they serve.
And one of the things that I do is I go out into the community and talk with a lot of students.
Additionally, AABE scholarships, mentorships, internships encourage students to enter the energy industry, expanding the pipeline for future leaders and innovators. AABE, sound technical analysis, community awareness, bridging energy companies, regulators, and the communities they serve, providing diverse energy perspectives, identifying, nurturing the next generation of energy leaders. This is AABE, and now is the time.
We have a mission that we're all very, very passionate about, and that is to be the voice of people in our communities, people who look like us, African Americans and other minorities who traditionally have paid a disproportionate share of their income for energy.
It's about the people who worry about paying their power bill every day. It's about the single mom with her kids who can't just say, oh wow, I won't pay my electric bill for the next 5 months, but who sits down every month and tries to figure out how they're going to pay that electric bill and put gas in that car and feed their kids and buy new school clothes and get some books and all that stuff that makes up the decision-making process. And so that's what we care about. That is a customer base for all of us, and it's an important customer base. And we've got to find a way to make sure those things that affect our industry affect that population the least, or at least we understand those impacts and how we can temper those impacts.
I mean, this business is a complex thing. There are a lot of moving parts. And in order, you have to have people who are in the industry be able to describe those things, be able to describe the unintended consequences that others may not even be aware of. And so for that reason, it is so critically important that we are engaged in this process. And again, it's not just the right thing to do, but truly from where I sit, it's what we must do.
And what we found was that there are some important differences in the African American community that people ought to know about as they're making energy policy. It put us on the map as an organization that has good data to share and an organization that bases its policies on information, on facts, not just on emotion. And I think that that has been changing the tenor of the debate. It's allowed us to put forth our energy policy principles. It's allowed us to brief key energy staff in Congress, energy policymakers at the state level. It really is what has allowed us to go forth confidently, and also has brought people to us asking us to get involved.
A lot of people who were in the room obviously come from congressional offices that represent districts with large African American constituencies in them. And so I think that some of the things that they heard today tended to reinforce some of the messages that perhaps they were hearing from people back home, that rising energy prices really are a serious concern to people with modest and lower incomes, working families. Those are things that all congressional offices are hearing, and obviously many of the congressional offices represented here are already hearing that message.
I think when we're talking to people in the community, it's a question of not what does this facility do, or how does it help Con Edison. It's how does it help people who live here.
Right.
And I think Con Edison, we've been supporting AABE for over 20 years. We have over 100 employees actively involved in AABE. It's a very active organization in the company. It's probably one of the most active organizations that we have in the company. It provides a lot of opportunities for our employees to hear from others, to hear a lot about what's going on in the energy business. It helps educate them. They do a lot of networking. They expand the body of knowledge of the employees, within the company. They then go out and talk to people, whether it's in the community, government officials, elected officials, about the importance of the energy policies and the environmental policies and how they intertwine together. And that's valuable for our employees, it's valuable for the company, and it's great for society to get those diverse views heard.
Our opinions are being sought because we've got the data to back up what we're saying. We have a different perspective based on the information that we're gathering on the energy issues and concerns of African Americans around this country. And we've got people of technical skill and knowledge representing us in those conversations. We are changing the nature of the debate in ways that can only inure to the good of our companies and our communities.
The voice of AABE now is such that we're talking about public policy issues that affect not just the African American community, but the energy industry. And the customers of all of our energy sector companies are the very people who identify with the membership of AABE. And if our voice is educated, our voice is credible. If the voice is credible, we become an asset for the industry in promulgating policies that make sense, that contribute to the bottom line, that make sense environmentally. It really is about arming the voices that contribute to the public policy debate.
AABE seems to be able to now stand up and take its rightful place in the role of providing information and education for people who are different and underrepresented.
AABE, sound technical analysis, community awareness, bridging energy companies, regulators, and the communities they serve, providing diverse energy perspectives, identifying, nurturing the next generation of energy leaders. This is AABE, and now is the time.